Mandy Henriod and Michael Walters here with the Grind Design podcast, and we are here today with Scott Groves, who is a dear mentor of mine, a good friend, um, keeps me laughing. He's an author of a book. Like Scott does all the things. He has created, built, broken. Hence why he's such a good teacher, right? He's broken things along the way and teaches us what not to do. But Scott, I'm gonna let you give your own introduction. Tell us about
Yeah.
you.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me on. Scott Groves, 25 years as a loan officer. About 10 years ago, that led to me starting a coaching program. That led to me writing a book for salespeople called Lead Generate 61 Days to Double Your Pay. That led to writing another book, which is really a workbook, a panda planner where people can kind of track their sales progress over 90 days and manage their day. And that's led to speaking, and that's led to investing in other companies that are on the fringe of mortgage and real estate. So, yeah, just like 25 years experience in sales, mortgage, real estate, all the things. I got three kids, a 22-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 7-year-old. And I really like doing jujitsu and smoking cigars, which unfortunately I haven't found a way to do that at the same time, but I'm working on it.
You might hurt something or someone if you do that. Maybe you
Yeah,
shouldn't.
not a good plan.
Yeah. Good. Good. Well, we've asked you to be on because this podcast is all about trying to support and grow a group or a community of entrepreneurs who, as we have been building businesses, we have figured out like everybody's making it up as they go a little bit. We're all learning
Yes.
on the fly, right? If we're being honest, anyone who says they know exactly what they're doing is lying. And so, what would you say is maybe the biggest lesson that you have learned?
Oh, well, there's 500 of them, which 499 of them are from failure, like you alluded to, right? The
Right.
only reason
Yeah.
the only reason I coach other people is because I've broken all the things and had to find a way to fix them, whether that's hiring team members or like not having a vision or not knowing how to run the P&L correctly or not knowing how to lead generate. All these things I've screwed up over 25 years. That's why it always cracks me up when there's like the 22-year-old life coach on Instagram. And I'm like,
Yeah.
hey man, you might be really good at coaching this one little segment that you have subject matter expertise in, doing an Instagram funnel or setting up a roadcaster for a podcast. That's awesome. I would trust a 22-year-old with that all day long. But like an actual business coach or life coach, like you've got to have some business and life experience. And the 22-year-old Instagram phenomenon just doesn't have that, right? But I would say if I could boil it down to one lesson, and this is super hard for business owners, whether you're buying a McDonald's franchise or you're a realtor or you're selling widgets on Instagram and Shopify, is that business owners are really bad at balancing like the vision and the grind. And it's like sometimes you have to play up here with your head in the clouds and thinking about the strategic vision and the grand plan and how you're going to take over the world in your particular industry. But then sometimes like the toilet needs to be cleaned, right? And sometimes the calls need to be made and the hard stuff needs to be done. And I think businesses, unfortunately, if you don't have a coach to do this, which is why I'm doing more business coaching right now outside of the loan and real estate world, if you don't have a plan or a mentor or a coach or somebody to hold you accountable for this, you will spend an like innate amount of time in the clouds just thinking about what could be and all your master plans and spending weeks and years perfecting your logo and the name of your podcast and all this stuff. But then you never actually get into the grind of like picking up the phone and making the call and selling the service or selling the product and actually making shit happen. Or on the other side, you'll just go into like constant grind mode, grind, 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 grind. And you'll wake up 10 years later and be like, dude, I don't even know what I'm running towards.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like I think about this as like a GPS, right? If I want to go from LA to Vegas, I need two things. I need the starting point and the destination. Because without those two things, GPS can't chart your path along the way and tell you where to go. And so, it's cool if you just take off driving 100 miles an hour in a certain direction. But if I'm trying to go to Vegas from LA and I'm going 100 miles an hour south to San Diego, that doesn't serve anybody. Conversely, if I'm spending a year planning my trip to Vegas, but I never actually get in the car and go, then what's the point, right? It was just like
Yeah.
mental gymnastics that didn't do anything for us. So I think trying to find that balance, and it's super hard when you're wearing all the hats and you're doing all the things, like making some time for strategic planning, being part of a mastermind, having a coach, reading a book, listening to a podcast that's relevant to your industry versus like, all right, here's the 3 hours where I pick up the phone and make sales and write out the process and procedures and hire the people and train the staff. It's hard to get that balance right when you're a business owner.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of something we use in our organization. It's that whole idea of counterbalance, right?
Yes.
Because like we hear this, you got to have life balance, you got to have life balance, and I don't know about you. I probably could just assume that there is no balance. It's a counterbalance act
Yeah.
at all times, whether that's as a parent and a business owner, a partner and a business owner, an athlete, whatever, right?
Yeah. It's to me, it's virtually impossible to keep all buckets full, right? Like if I think of the bucket that I'm trying to fill up with my family, with my wife, whatnot, that's one bucket. And then over here, I have this bucket of like my personal health and my personal sanity and my hobbies and the stuff that I want. And then over here, I have this like 5 gallon bucket of business stuff, right? Making money, growing the team, investing wisely. It's like, let's say I have 5 gallon buckets, right? So I have 15 gallons worth of buckets. I never seem to be able to fill all 15 gallons. It's like if the business bucket is totally full with 5 gallons of water, my family bucket's got about 2 gallons of water in it. And
Right.
if my personal health and hobbies is crushing, and I'm doing great at jujitsu, and I'm having fun, and life's good, and I'm traveling. The business bucket really has a leak in it, and so I think just constantly moving the water back and forth between those buckets, like it's the best we can do. Again, back to the 22-year-old Instagram life coach who's telling that you can have all the things and all the buckets can be full. It's like, bro, you don't even have kids yet. I don't want to hear anything you have to say.
I think you can have all of the things. You can't have all of the things in the exact same moment, right?
Oh, for
You can
sure.
have a fantastic family, a fantastic work. You can have them, just not all on the same day,
Yeah. Like my
right?
wife knows for the next hour, she's not allowed to interrupt my office. Like the end. Ta-da. Because
Right.
right now is like business moment. I got to be focused. I got to give you and your audience 100% of myself. But 5 minutes after we're done with this, I'm going on daddy duty and I'm leaving work early at 5 o'clock because my wife deserves a girls' trip. And
Yeah.
I'm on daddy duty for the next 72 hours, right? So the business
Yeah.
bucket will be empty for the next 72 hours. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. In addition to the um, the counterbalancing.
Yeah.
I think it's also about being present in what you're doing. Like right now, you are 100% dialed in as we are, and you've set some guardrails to make sure that that is not disrupted. And
Right.
I think sometimes that we don't have those guardrails in place, and thus we get squirreled. Like, I mean, come on.
Absolutely. Well, think about it. We have a checklist on the wall. Like you all can't see this, but there's a checklist on the wall. And in that checklist is literally to put phones on do not disturb, to shut everything down because we live in such a world of constant barrage, right? Of information, of demand, of all the things. So you have to like kind of protect things when
Yeah.
you're in them.
I tell people this. This is one of my favorite business lessons that I've been leaning into, and Mandy's probably heard this more times than she cares to. But there's a couple of keynotes that I give on sales and business development and stuff like that. And one of the things I ask is, I'm like, hey, stand up in the room if you can tell when you're on the phone with somebody else and they're doing something else. You're talking to your mom and she's doing the laundry. You're talking to somebody in customer service, but you know they're typing and they're trying to close out the task from the last customer service call. Like we can tell when people aren't being present with us, right? And then I ask
Yeah.
the audience, stay standing if you do the same exact thing, and
Yeah.
everybody stays standing. I'm like, exactly. Why do you think you're so special that you can trick the person on the other side of the phone or the other side of the Zoom call into thinking you're being present when you know every time somebody's not being present with you? And then how this expands to sales is, I'll get loan officers that complain, oh, well, they shop me for the rate. Or I'll get realtors that say, oh, buyers are liars. Or I'll get business owners that are like, I can't keep anybody loyal. I would be willing to bet if you had a little drone over your shoulder at all times and you went back to your very first interaction with that client, they probably ended up ditching you or shopping you or not trusting you because you weren't present in that initial moment. And when you weren't present and you didn't make them feel special, they immediately felt like they need to get answers somewhere else. And that's like the death spiral for businesses. Like if you can't build a relationship with the client on step one, everything else is a cluster. And so yeah, being present, it's like a secret weapon these days.
But I think it's to every category, right? We all know in theory we should be present with our family, but we do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And the thing that has been on my mind this week is being present with staff. Like, how often does somebody on your team start talking to you? And because you know that they know that you have these 500 things going on, you think that somehow they should forgive you for showing up kind of half-assed, let's be honest, in that conversation. But in reality, are we being the best leader we can be if that's how they experience us?
Yeah. I'm curious because on this topic of just being intentional, Scott, how would you, for somebody who's listening, who's maybe struggling with that ability to focus and be in the moment, like how would you coach them?
Yeah. Well, first I would tell them to check out one of two books is Indistractable by Nir Ayal, Nirayal. And this is a guy who's a psychologist or a psychologist, I believe, who was hired by the social media companies early in their evolution to make them more addictive. And he has so much shame around that. He's dedicated the rest of his life to help people become indistractable and be more present. So that's one book that I recommend everybody read. And then Willpower Doesn't Work is another book around how you need to control your environment. Like Scott Groves, cannot say no to Oreos or Dr. Pepper. So when I'm on like a health kick, if I'm on a health kick, guess what isn't in my house? Oreos or Dr. Pepper, because I count Oreos by like the number of rows that I can eat, not the number of cookies that I can eat. So if I'm trying to look out for my health, I just have to control my environment, right? I'll give you a perfect example. I recently had to delete the chess.com app from my phone because the number of times I was playing chess with Mandy's kid where my kids wanted my attention, right? I'm playing chess with Xander, and I'm like, why am I spending more time with Mandy's kid than I am my own kids? And my kids are looking over at me being like, Dad, are you playing chess? I'm like, oh yeah, sorry, I'm not present watching this movie with you because I'm playing with somebody else's kid digitally. So I deleted the chess.com app from my phone. I'm never going pro in chess. So it's like, why am I allowing that distraction digitally into my life? So I would say one, willpower doesn't work, controlling your environment. Two, reading Indistractable. And then if I was coaching somebody on a sales process, eye to eye contact solves a lot of problems. Because if you're intentional about trying to make
Yeah.
eye to eye contact, it's very awkward, even as socially acceptable of having your phone is like everywhere now. It's ubiquitous. If you're trying to have a conversation face to face, eye to eye, it makes it much weirder to pick up your phone or turn your head and type an email over here. So like that's just like a little hack for having, better engagement.
That's why you have us doing so many of our things via Zoom.
Hmm. Totally. And I can always tell when people are checked out.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think we've talked about this, you and I,
Yeah.
that the I don't want to say generations because I think this goes over many generations. The ability to look and have that not just look eye to eye, but to have that front-facing conversation, and sometimes those conversations that need to be done in that way around running to a problem or you've got
Right.
a conflict. We hide behind a screen or we don't look directly and we don't get to the root of the problem
Yeah.
and solve it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The other thing that I would say is like you can just ask the question, right? So it's like if I get on the call with a client, right? Some client calls me, they leave a voicemail, they text message me, and half an hour later I get back to them. I just ask them straight up. I'm like, hey, this is a really important conversation about a very big financial decision. Are you in a space right now where you can be present, or do we need to just schedule this call in a couple hours or tomorrow or on Monday?
Yeah.
And it's shocking how many people have never been asked that question before, and they'll be like, oh, yeah, you know what? Let me turn this off so I can be present. Or you know what? I'm right in the middle of something. I'm in a crowded bar having lunch. Can we talk in 2 hours? So just asking the question, which nobody asks anymore, of like, can we be present, right? Which is what you did with this podcast. You scheduled it a time where we could all be present. Just imagine if you called me 2 days ago and you're like, hey, we're doing a podcast in 15 minutes. Can you jump on? I probably would have made time to do it because I love Mandy, but I sure as heck wouldn't have been present because I would have had this on my mind and trying to respond to this email and looking out to see where my calendar is. So, like, being present is just a superhero power that is lost on most human beings in America these days.
Yeah, I agree.
It's almost, when you were talking about your Oreo and Dr. Pepper, um, it I think of this bunker that we have to put ourselves in, whether that's around a diet or, making sales calls where like that bunker is impenetrable
Yeah.
to what our mission is.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Last coaching tip.
Yeah.
It's okay to say no. I mean,
Most powerful words, right?
we're super busy, right? It's okay to say no to downloading the new app or taking on the new idea. I was in a retreat one time for coaches. So it was like coaching for coaches, which is kind of weird, but whatever. And my buddy Hal Elrod, who wrote the book The Miracle Morning, was in this group with us. And he said that at some point there was such a demand on his time, he went through the last 100 people that had emailed them and texted him or called him, that were like friends, business associates, whatever. And he just took an 8.5 by 14, drew a line down the middle, and made 2 columns. He's like, all right, if I'm being honest, of these people that are constantly vying for my time, who are my friends that are like in growth mode and like I want to attach my caboose to their train? And who are the people that tend to just call me to complain and bitch and
Mm-hmm.
catch up because they have nothing else better going on in their life? And like, it's not to say that these non growth oriented people aren't worth your time, but you have to put a little moat around your castle of like, all right, my Aunt Cynthia, I love her to death. She's the best. She's the sweetest person in the entire world. I don't need to talk to her every week because I know the conversation is going to be exactly the same. It's been exactly the same for 15 years. So it's like, I'll check in with her once a month, once every other month. Love you. You're an important person. I care about you. But like, I just don't have bandwidth to talk to her for a half an hour every week because like she's at a different stage in her life and she's not in growth mode and she's going to kind of catch me up on all the family gossip that I don't care about. But it's like, if I'm going to make time for people, I don't make time for Mandy. She's in growth mode. She's in killer mode right now, right? And I'm sure, Michael, you're the same way. I just don't know as much about you personally. So it's like, those are the people I want to make time for. And as I get older, I realize how much more comfortable I have to get with telling people and things no.
Yeah. That's actually a hard thing.
Very hard.
It's probably my weak spot.
I think by nature we are people pleasers.
Yeah.
Most of us.
Yeah.
I love that.
Because we feel like we're not being nice, right?
Yeah.
But yes, you can't do everything. So, as Scott Groves tells us all the time, sometimes you have to say no to the good to make room for the great.
Yes, I have that on my wall right here. Say no to the good to make room for the great. And you know what's a tactful way to do this? If you are kind of like my old partner used to call me an intellectual philanthropist. He's like, dude, you don't have time to take calls from everybody who just wants 20 minutes of your time, but it's hard for you to say no because you like care and you want to help, right? Um,
Yeah.
and so I got this idea from Jay Papasan, who is the brains behind all of the Keller Williams books. So Gary Keller wrote The Millionaire Agent. He wrote Shift. He wrote The One Thing. He didn't write any of that shit. Jay Papasan actually wrote all of that. He's the brains behind that. And I saw Jay Papasan at a live event. And I ran up to him when he was leaving. I'm like, hey, Jay, I'm about ready to write a book. You've written 3 New York Times bestsellers. Can I get like 20 minutes of your time? And he's like, hey, get in touch with my secretary and she'll schedule something. So I call the secretary and she had a very tactful way of not saying no, but she said not yet. And she said, okay, Scott, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you this YouTube video of Jay talking about why to write a book, how to write a book. Watch that YouTube video, email me back, and I'll see if I can schedule something with Jay because the dude's really busy. He's basically like the number 2 guy at Keller Williams. So I immediately watched that video, emailed her back. She put me on his calendar. We ended up talking for like an hour and a half. And I was like, Jay, man, I so appreciate your time. I'm sure you get dozens of these calls a week. Like, thanks for making time for me. He starts laughing and he goes, Scott, he goes, everybody wants 20 minutes of your time. You're only the second person who's ever followed through with watching that video, emailing my secretary back. So I've just created all these little tripwires in my life where the answer is not no, it's just not yet. And then once those
Interesting.
people check the box, then they are deserving of my time because they did the homework. Now, a lot of people listening to this podcast might be in sales. You got to get back to people to make sales. I understand that. But if you're feeling all this like tension on people vying for your time, create some authentic tripwires that allows you to see who's interested and who's really worth your time. You know, if you're a seasoned real estate agent and all the newbies are calling you, hey, can I get an hour of your time? Can I take you out to lunch? How are you doing what you're doing? Hey, great. Here's this article that I read years ago about how to be a successful realtor. Do me a favor, read this, shoot me back like your favorite, points in the article, and then we'll
Yeah.
schedule lunch to talk about it. I guarantee you 9 out of 10 people that just want your time right now because they're bored and they want 20 minutes of the top producer's time, they will not read that article. They will not get back to you. And then the people that do get back to you are the ones you actually want to invest in.
That's actually brilliant. I mean, we do that sometimes to a point with clients, right, in our business. And for me, like if you are not willing to take the 10, 15 minutes to enter your information to create a file, then you don't get access to an hour of my time, right? Like we
Yep.
have those, but I have never thought to do it in the rest of my life. That's brilliant.
Thank you, Jay.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it works too. When I was with my prior organization in charge of staffing and hiring, I was getting dozens and dozens of applications a week, and before they got space on my calendar to do what we called the KPA, which is an assessment tool, they had to do a handful of things. And to Scott's point, it was amazing how many people just self-deselected by not doing the pre-work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The lack of, yeah. Interesting. Well, and we ran into this all the time where people are like, why are you willing to share what you do? Right? You've heard this, I'm sure, Scott, right? Because Scott, of all the people I know, like he'll literally hand you his SOP. Why do you do that, Scott?
Because nobody does it unless they're in coaching and they have somebody to follow up and actually take action.
And even then, even if they're in coaching, a small percent will actually
Right.
implement.
Well, because it's not this big red easy button they can just hit
Right.
and get the
Right.
work done. But they can get the playbook on a platter. And then we realize, I was going to say they, but it's we realize, oh my God, like look at the work I have to do.
Right.
Right.
But to me, it's actually the people who are willing to share, the people willing to have a conversation and be completely transparent about what they're doing that's working are actually the ones who have really done the work because they've done the work. They know how hard it is and they know you probably aren't going to do it. They have
Yeah.
nothing. You're not competition, right? And anybody who's willing to take the information, do something with it is just rising the tide. It's fine.
Totally. And with the democratization of information, I'm not saying anything new. This has been around for 40 years. There's literally nothing that you can't find for free on Google, YouTube, ChatGPT, a $10 book. Like all of the information is out there. When
Yeah.
you're paying somebody for a service, what you're really paying for is curation, education, or community, right? So it's like I go to all the coaching things so I can curate. All right, guys, I input, 500 different ideas. Here's the 5 that look like they're actually working. Now let's build a community around these ideas so then I can continue to educate you and hold you accountable on your path. But it's like if you're listening to this podcast and you sell a information product, which the reality is like even realtors, they think they sell houses, but you guys really sell an information product, right? The house is either on the market or it's not. It's your job as the realtor to advise people on the neighborhood. Can they afford it? All that kind of stuff. So like if you're in the information sales business, all you can really do is curate knowledge for people, educate them about it, show them the path to community or build the community yourself, and then like hold them accountable, right? It's like no deal would ever close if it wasn't for realtors and loan officers holding the hand of the emotionally distressed buyer and seller to get through to the end of the transaction. But listing agents and buyers agents don't sell houses. Like I don't know any realtor that's ever built a house from scratch and then sold. It doesn't happen, right? We're in the information business, and so it's important for us to just curate that. And anybody that wants like our 80 pages of business SOP, I've given it out to thousands of people for free because nobody's going to actually take the work or take the initiative to do the work. It's crazy.
Yeah. That's the thing that makes me laugh is people, and I get asked all the time, like, well, thanks for sharing. I'll literally hand somebody the marketing piece, right? And it doesn't matter because so few are going to do the thing. And those are just my people. They're not competition.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah. Um, I know you read a ridiculous amount. I mean, I thought I read a lot. You read a lot more than I do. What is the most impactful book that you've read as a business owner?
Oh, I'm glad you said business owner. This was going to take a quick right turn into politics. Um,
Please do
I
share.
know you. I
yeah, Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell may be the best book ever written on like the economy. So everybody, if they want to argue with anybody on Facebook about politics or finance or the economy, should read the book Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell. He's a national treasure. Best business book, man, one always sticks out, which unfortunately, by the time I got in touch with the publisher, the author had passed away, and now his daughter runs the kind of brand and company. The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes. Chetholmes. The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes. And, he's got this wild sales background. And the book is just like, I can't remember, it's 11 or 14 steps that you have to manage in your business if you sell anything. So whether it's real estate or widgets, if you sell something, or at some point somebody has to sign on the dotted line to give you money, you should read The Ultimate Sales Machine. It's just an amazing book about how you do your intake, your process, your sales, your fulfillment. And then a close second is Never Lose a Customer Again. Never Lose a Customer Again by, oh my God, I'm blanking on his name, Joey Coleman. Never Lose a Customer Again is just a masterclass in how to create client experience. And I constantly are using examples and references from those two books.
love that.
We got some reading to do.
What's that?
We got some reading to do.
I was gonna say I was actually surprised he gave a book that I hadn't read because usually I get so much of my list from Scott that most of them I've covered, but I've not read The Ultimate Sales Machine, believe it or
Yeah,
not.
it's very good.
So, you've got you've built a business. You're con, continuing to evolve that business, grow it. If you had to rewind the tapes, Scott, is there a learning lesson that stands out above everything else that sort of helped you get to where you're at right now?
Yeah, I think master something first before you try to do the next thing, right? And again, this comes from massive failure. I had mastered the process of being a loan officer and building loans and knowing what loans would work and lead generating and getting the deals to closing. Like I had mastered that process. And then I was like, well, I'm awesome. If I can master this process, I can master this process for 40 other people that I manage. And I'm even a coach. I'm going to be amazing at this. But being a coach for somebody is much different than being a manager. When I coach somebody, they give me money, I give them information, and it's their job whether or not they actually take action on that information or not. Being a manager, when your income is tied to somebody else's production, is a totally different game. And I did not take that seriously enough. And to this day, I have not mastered being a manager. I never want to manage loan officers again. I have my one business partner who I don't even really have to manage. She runs herself. And I screwed that up. Like I had a 2 year window where I made less money managing 40 loan officers than I did just doing my own production. And so I think we hear this a lot where the scope of business starts to expand, right? Oh, well, I'm a really good realtor, so I'm going to hire a team or I'm going to hire a buyer's agent. Or, I'm really good at selling tacos. Let's start selling poke bowls or whatever. And it's like until you've mastered something, you really can't move on to mastery of the next thing. And then we have to have the humility, which I did not in my 30s, to understand, hey, I've mastered some stuff in my life, but I don't know diddly squat about this new thing that I'm trying to take on. And what happened was by the time I was willing to humble myself and take a step back and be like, dude, I've got to clear the decks, and every book that I need to read needs to be on management, which I did. Every podcast on my playlist needs to be about being a better manager so I can eventually coach this stuff to people like Mandy. It took me a couple years to have the humility to understand, like, I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I would say when you're growing, like focus on something, whether that's a client avatar or a specific geographical area or a specific product, and really master that before the scope of business starts to expand. And awkwardly, I just had this conversation with my wife where she opened a school here in Las Vegas. We moved up here. We couldn't find the school that we wanted for our kids, so we built our own, and they have a fully immersive full-time school. It's actually a homeschooling co-op center for legal reasons. And within their first year, they were like, okay, we're going to do a part-time program for kids that don't want to be here full-time, and we're going to do an extended learning program. And I'm like, honey, I love you, you're running everything, but I wrote the check, so I get a little business say in this operation. You cannot expand into other verticals until you've got like 3 or 4 years under your belt and you've mastered this full-time student, you've grown to capacity. Then you can start bringing on other stuff. But like, sorry, honey, this is one business lesson that I've learned the hard way. I disavow your ability or disallow your ability to like build another product before you've mastered this product. And she was really mad at me for about 2 days. And then she realized I was right. So that was cool. That's like one in the husband win column versus the 700 over here that's in the wife win column. But yeah, I would say master something before you move on to something else.
That's so good.
I love that. I think that's one of the biggest struggles for business owners. I wonder if, because this is an interesting thing. I don't know if anybody else has noticed this. I feel like in our industries, there's actually a lot of mentorship that goes on. I've noticed having a husband who is also self-employed in a completely different industry, there's no mentorship, right? So I don't know if everybody experiences the world the way we do. I've been wondering that lately. And hence part of the reason for this podcast, right? Is do other industries have somebody to turn to for those things? But I think as you start running an organization, as you start trying to manage people, when you said humbling, Scott, like legit, it is humbling. I've had some
Yeah.
moments in the last year where I'm like, gosh, for all the shit that I theoretically know, that does not make me a good teacher. That does not
Yeah.
necessarily make me a good manager. It does not mean that I'm right on this item or that item. So I think that's a really good point.
Yeah. And we're like
You
in
should
our
have told me that
40s.
about 3 years ago.
We're in our 40s. Like we're supposed to know everything by now. We got some life experience, right? Like I've got a little bit of a dad bod going on. Like I've earned the right to know all the things. And like when you're 46 and realizing, oh, I'm going into this new vertical where I don't know what I don't know,
Yeah.
it's hard for a lot of people to swallow. And that's okay. That's how we
Well, and I
evolve.
think when you're really good at one particular thing, there's some arrogance that comes with that,
There you go.
Yep.
right? So you step into that arena with this level of arrogance about what you know, and it is humbling. That is a really good word for it.
Wow. That's a good nugget.
Um, Scott, if people are looking for you, where can they find you?
On all the places, I'm Scott L, as in loser or lover, depending on what you think about me. It's Scott L Groves, Groves. So LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, just whatever that source is, / Scott L Groves. And by the way, that's just another small business tip for marketing for your people. Find something that works across all platforms. I used to be forward Facebook.com / Scott the Lender. And then on Instagram, I was Instagram / Scott Groves team. And then on Instagram, I was / Scott Groves. And it's like, why am I making this complicated for people to find me? Just find something that works for you, that works across all the platforms. And anywhere, if you type in Scott L, as in Lambert, that's my real middle name, like the sheepish lion, Scott L Groves, you will find me.
And you
Okay.
have a podcast too, correct?
Yep.
I do. It's called On the Edge Podcast. Definitely check it out at your own risk because we talk about some wild stuff on there that is not endorsed by any of the companies I've ever worked for. We dive into
And it's a
politics.
wild range of things, Scott.
Yeah.
I mean,
We
every
do.
once in a while I jump on and I'm like, ooh, that was interesting. And other days I'm like, what is going on in the groves?
Yeah, I'll talk to
Casita.
anybody that I find interesting. So whether you're an OnlyFans model or whether you got held hostage in a Syrian prison because people thought you were in the
Yeah.
CIA, like we just talk about some wild stuff, and then sometimes it gets really political. So listen at your own risk. On the Edge Podcast by Scott Groves.
Yeah. Can be a lot of fun though. Um, thank you for the way that you show up in our community. Thanks for being the guy that is willing to share what you know. And thanks for being such a good example.
Happy to.
If anybody hasn't noticed it, you'll see a thing in the background there that says Front Row Dads. Scott is first and always a dad and a husband. And that's impressive.
Yeah. Thanks for filling our buckets today. This is awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Appreciate you.
See ya.